Achilles, the fast-footed son of Peleus? Achilles still raged beside his fast-faring ships. He was just wasting his heart away. No longer did he come into the assembly where men win honor. No longer did he go into battle, even though he longed for the battle cry and for war. But on the 12th day, all of the gods that always are came back to Mount Olympus, and Zeus led them. And Thetis, she did not forget what she had promised to her son Achilles, but she came up through the waves of the sea, and early in the morning she went up great, holy Mount Olympus, and she found Zeus there, sitting there, the son of Cronos with his wide brows. And he was sitting apart from all the other gods. He was up on the highest peak of many-necked Olympus. And so then she went, Thetis, and she went in front of him and took him by the knees with her left arm and grabbed his chin with her right and begged him, "Zeus, father, if I have ever done anything to benefit you among the immortals, either in word or in action, please honor my son, who is the shortest lived of all men, for now the Lord of men, Agamemnon, has dishonored him. He has taken his prize, he has robbed Achilles, and he keeps her. So now you, Zeus, most powerful, you honor him. Give power to the Trojans, so that the Achaeans will pay back my son and heap up his honor." That's what she said. And Zeus, the son of Cronos, just sat still, silent. And so Thetis replanted herself and took him more firmly by the knee and said a second time, "You are infallible, but please just answer me, promise me, and nod your head or refuse me. What have you got to be afraid of? But I just need to know by how much I am the most dishonored of all the gods." That's what she said. And Zeus, the cloud gatherer, was upset and finally answered her, "You are asking destructive deeds when you put me in direct conflict with Hera who already starts so much shit among the immortals every time she thinks that I help the Trojans too much in battle. Now go back to your home and don't let Hera see you, and I will take care of this, and I will make sure that it is accomplished, and I will nod my head to you so that you believe me, because my nod is the surest sign among the immortals. And whatever I nod to, it cannot be reversed. It cannot be faked. It cannot be left undone." And with that, Zeus, the son of Cronos, with his black-blue eyebrows, he nodded so that the ambrosial fell out of his long flowing hair from the top of his immortal head, and all of Olympus shook too. So these two made their plans and parted ways, and Thetis jumped back into the deep sea from dazzling Olympus, and Zeus, he went to his own home, and as he went, all of the other immortal gods just stood up. They couldn't even bear to face them. Not one could stand to face him. And then he went and sat on his own throne. But Hera had noticed that Thetis, the silver-footed goddess, the daughter of the old man of the sea, had come and made plans with Zeus. So now Hera started her ranting with insults at Zeus, the son of Cronos. "Scoundrel! Which of the immortal gods have you been making plans with? You know, you always love to keep your thoughts hidden from me, to make a decision all on your own. Not once can you even bear to be generous with me and share what's in your mind." That's what she said. And the father of men and gods, Zeus, answered and said, "Hera, do not always hope to know every single thing that's in my mind. even though you are my wife, you couldn't handle it. Now, if there is anything that I decide apart from gods and men, and it is right for you to know, I tell you, you will be the first to know. But other than that, stop asking so many questions. I don't want to hear about your investigation. And now, Hera, the cow-eyed goddess. Cows have big, beautiful eyes. This is a compliment. She answered the Lord Zeus, son of Kronos, "You most terrible son of Kronos, what have you just said to me? When have I ever once before asked too many questions or investigated too much? Now my heart is actually scared because I don't know what you might have said to Thetis, the silver-footed daughter of the old man of the sea. I am nervous that you might have promised to honor Achilles and to kill many Achaeans beside their ships." And now the cloud-gatherer Zeus answered her and said, "Daimoniae, yeah, you're so sharp, nothing gets past you. And what good does it do you? All it does is create distance between us and makes things worse for you. Just go, sit down, be quiet, listen to my commands." Oh no. "Listen to my commands. And know that if any one of the immortal gods, not any of them could help you if I came closer to you and lay my invincible hand upon you." That's what he said. And Hera, with the cow eyes, the goddess, she was scared, and so she sat down quietly, and she bent her heart inside of her. And all of the other gods on Olympus were upset. But now Hephaestus, who has many skills and is famous for his craft, he stood up amongst the gods, and he really wanted to comfort the white-armed goddess, his lady mother, Hera. And so he said, "Now these will be terrible things that will happen if you two fight like this over mortals and bring conflict in amongst the immortals. Now no one will be able to enjoy this amazing feast. I myself will advise my mother, even though I know she knows this, that she should approach Zeus with comforting words so that Zeus doesn't come in here and start shit and ruin the feast. We all know that Zeus, the lightning flasher, the Olympus, if he wants to, he can strike each one of us from our seats. He is that powerful. But if we go close to him with soft words, then we'll see right away how gracious the Olympian Lord can be." That's what he said, and Hephaestus darted over to his Lord Mother Hera, and he handed her a two-handled cup. And he said, "Mother, buck up. Even though you care about this in your heart, please let it go and check yourself. I do not want to see you, dear as you are to me, I do not want to see you hurt. Because then as much as I want to help you, I won't be able to. The last time that I tried to help, Zeus threw me down from the divine threshold, and I fell all day long until the sun set, and I landed on Lemnos, and there was hardly any life left in me, and then the Sintian men had to put me back together." And smiling, his lady mother Hera accepted the cup. And so Hephaestus poured the sweet nectar. And then he went from right to left and poured out wine for all of the gods. But the gods, ableist assholes that they sometimes tend to be, they all laughed insatiably as he busied himself about the halls. So then they feasted. And they all feasted all day long until the sun set, and every god had their satisfaction of the fair share of the meal, and the fair share of the lyre's music that Apollo played, and a fair share of the sweet song that the muses sang along with it. And so, until the light of the sun sank, they feasted. But then night came, and they all went back to their own homes, each to the place that Hephaestus had built. Hephaestus had a disability in both of his legs, and he also had amazing craftwork for houses. And so this is where their gods went, where they could sleep. And Zeus, too, went up to his bed, where sweet sleep takes him, and the place that he lies down every night. And so he went up to bed and slept next to gold-throned Hera. And all through the night, everyone slept, all of the gods and the men who marshal horses. But Zeus could not sleep. His heart was full of anxiety over how he could honor Achilles and kill many Achaeans beside their ships. And now the best idea appeared to him that he would send a destructive dream down to Agamemnon, the son of Atreus. And so he called the dream, and he addressed the dream in winged words and said, "Destructive dream, go now beside the swift ships of the Achaeans and find Agamemnon, the son of Atreus, and I want you to tell him exactly what I tell you, that he must now order the flowing-haired Achaeans to arm as soon as possible, for now he might take the city of Troy with its wide streets. No longer do the gods that have their homes on Olympus argue back and forth over this. Now Hera has bent them all to her will, begging, and she will send grief to the Trojans." That's what Zeus said. And the dream obeyed his orders and went down along the ships of the Achaeans, lightly going until he found the tent of Agamemnon. And he found Agamemnon himself sleeping inside the tent. And he went and stood right over Agamemnon's head, interrupting his ambrosial slumber. And he looked just like Nestor, the son of Neleus, whom Agamemnon honored above all other older men. And he said, appearing to him, "Son of Atreus, Agamemnon, brilliant, horse-breaking, are you sleeping? Don't you know you're not supposed to sleep all night long? You who carry the counsel for the people, whom all the people are entrusted to, and you have so many cares. Now listen to me, for I am a messenger of Zeus, and he cares for you, even though he is far away, and he pities you. Now arm all of the flowing-haired Achaeans right away, for now you might take the city of Troy with its wide streets. No longer do the gods who hold their homes on Mount Olympus argue back and forth over this. Now Hera has bent all of them to her will, begging, and she will send grief to the Trojans from Zeus. And keep this in your thoughts. Do not let forgetfulness take it away when you wake from sweet slumber." That's what the dream said, and he went away, and he left Agamemnon there, thinking things that would never happen, for he thought that this very day he would sack Priam's city, the fool. For Zeus had other plans, and still had many pains and groans that he would place upon the Trojans and the Achaeans through the terrible battles. But now Agamemnon woke up from his sweet slumber, though he still had the divine voice around his head poured there. I like that verb. And he sat straight up in bed, and he found a well-made, fine, soft tunic, and he put it on. And then he got a mantle and put that over it. And then he put on his beautiful sandals onto his fatty feet. Why are they fatty? This is a mystery. Are they well oiled? Are they wrinkle-free? We don't know. And then he slung the silver-studded sword over his shoulders, and he took the scepter, the ancestral scepter that never wears out, and he went with it among the ships of the bronze-clad Achaeans. Meanwhile, the goddess Zeus came to Mount Olympus and announced light to, oh, nope, the goddess is not the Zeus, goddess is the dawn, came to Mount Olympus and announced the light to Zeus and all the other immortals. Back to Agamemnon. And Agamemnon went and called for heralds. And when he got the heralds, he told them to announce the assembly to all the Achaeans. And so the heralds went and heralded, and all of the Achaeans began to assemble. Meanwhile, Agamemnon called the old men of the Achaeans to the small council. Welcome. And he called them into a circle, and he got them ready, and they were right in front of the tent of Nestor. And he said to all of them, friends, you know, I had this dream through the ambrosial night, and it stood over my head, and it looked so much like Nestor. I mean, marvelous in its form and in its size and in its nature. And he said to me, son of Atreus, horse-breaking Agamemnon, brilliant as you are you sleeping? Don't you know that you're not supposed to sleep all through the night? You who carry the counsel for the people and who have so many people entrusted into them and have so many cares? No. Now you should listen to me, for I am a messenger of Zeus, and Zeus cares about you and pities you even though he's far away. So now, order the flowing-haired Achaeans to arm right away, for now you might take the city of Troy with its wide streets. No longer do the gods who hold their homes on Mount Olympus argue back and forth about this, but now Hera has bent them all to her will, begging them, and she will send grief to the Trojans from Zeus. And keep this in your thoughts. That's what he said. And then the dream flew away. So come, elders. How are we going to arm the sons of the Achaeans? First, I think I want to test them. Test them out with words, as is my right. So I'm going to order all of them to go home to our own beloved country. And I want you all to keep them in line with your words. Next, Nestor, who ruled over the race of the Pylians, he stood up. Friends, leaders and protectors of the Argives, if anyone else of all the Achaeans would have told us this dream, we would have said it was a lie. We would have turned our backs on him. But now he who claims to be the best of the Achaeans has said it. So come, how might we best arm the Achaeans? That's what he said. And now the whole small council broke up, and all of the sceptered kings obeyed the shepherd of the people, Agamemnon, and each man went to his own people and got them assembled. And the rest of the people themselves went into motion. They moved like when bees come in swarms, swarm after swarm from the hollows of a rock, and they fly here and there and gather like bunches of grapes on top of the springtime flowers. That's how they moved in ranks, going in line along the shore of this deep sea. And rumor blazed along with them, the messenger of Zeus, stirring up each man. And so they gathered in ranks all along the assembly place, and the assembly place shook, and the earth beneath them groaned. And such a noise came up as they came together. And 9 heralds went about, shouting at anyone who was shouting, telling them, listen to the God-sprung kings, right? Getting them to sit down and shut up. Finally, they all sat down in seriousness. They took their places and they stopped their clanging. And that's when Agamemnon stood up amongst them. Agamemnon holding the scepter that Hephaestus made. Now, Hephaestus had first given it to Zeus, the son of Cronos. And then Zeus gave it to Hermes, the divine messenger Agriphantes. Hermes, in turn, gave it to Pelops, who struck horses. Pelops then gave it to Atreus, the shepherd of the people. Then Atreus died. He left it to Thyestes, who's got a lot of sheep. And then Thyestes left it to Agamemnon. And now Agamemnon had it. And he ruled over all the Argives and many of the islands, and he stood holding it in hand and addressed them. Friends, Danaan heroes, helpers of Ares, Zeus has put me in kind of a heavy madness. He has made everything that he promised to me, and he nodded to me before that we would sack Troy, that we would make it home again. He has made all of that into a lie. Now he orders me to go back to Argos, Douce-Claire. I don't know, ill-famed, dishonored. And many of my men have died. That's what Zeus likes to do, you know? I mean, he's just so powerful. He will break the heads of so many cities, and he will still break more heads. He has such power. But it is a shameful thing that so many Achaeans, and such Achaeans, have come here to fight a war in vain, to fight uselessly, and against so many fewer men. I mean, if the Trojans and the Achaeans were to take an oath so that there was a little bit of peace, and then they would let themselves all be counted, okay? And for every Trojan, we counted one who had a house in Troy. And then us, Achaeans, we divided ourselves into tens, and each 10 Achaeans took the one Trojan to be their wine bearer. Then there would still be so many tens of the Achaeans who didn't have wine bearers. That is, and then there'd be no wine. And the point is, that's how many more of us there are than Trojans in Troy. But they have many allies from other cities, spear-fighting men, and now all together they have bent me backwards, and as much as I want to, I cannot sack the well-settled city of Troy. 9 years we've been here. Our ship planks are rotted through, the cables are broken, our wives and our kids are waiting for us at home, and the thing we came here to do just keeps being undone. So now I'm going to order you something, and I want you all to obey. Let's all go home to our own dear fatherland in our well-bent ships. We will not sack the well-settled city of Troy. That's what he said. And the people, there was such, it was like when, well, each man was stirred in his own heart, and the whole assembly was moved. It was like when the south wind and the southeast wind, they blow so hard from the clouds of Zeus against the waves onto the shore, and the waves are going and crashing, crashing. Or it was like the west wind when it comes furiously rushing upon the deep grain and bending over the heavy corn stalks. That's how all the people were moved. And every man ran back towards his own ship. They were all shouting out with a victory shout, kicking up the dust beneath their feet, each man ordering one another to take a hold of the ship, and their shouts for homecoming went up to heaven. And they cleaned out the launching channels, and they took the props away from the ships, and at that moment the Argives would have had a homecoming beyond fate. except Hera gave a command to Athena. Daughter of Aegis-bearing Zeus, Atritone, Athena, now the Argives are going to go back to their own dear country over the wide back of the sea. They are going to leave Argive Helen as something to brag about for the Trojans and for Priam? No. Go down among the swift ships of the Achaeans and with gentle words check them. Tell each man that he cannot draw his oar-swept ship into the salt sea. That's what she said. And the gray-eyed goddess Athena did not disobey, but immediately rushed down from the peaks of Mount Olympus and went down among the ships of the Achaeans, where she found Odysseus, who was like a genius. He was just like Zeus like that. And Odysseus, he hadn't laid a hand on his black, well-oared ship because he had grief in his heart and in his mind. And so now the gray-eyed goddess stood behind him and addressed him. God-sprung son of Laertes, Odysseus with your many ways. Now would the Argives go back to their own beloved land? Now would they leave behind Argive Helen, something to brag about for the Trojans and for Priam? Helen, for whom so many Argives have already died far from their fatherland? No, you must go beside the ships of the bronze-clad Achaeans. You must check them with soft words. Tell each man that he cannot draw his oar-swept ship into the salt sea. That's what she said, and Odysseus recognized the voice of the goddess and immediately obeyed. He went running through the people, and he actually threw off his mantle, and the herald, Eurybates, the Ithacan herald, picked it up as he followed after him. So Odysseus finally came, face to face with Agamemnon, the shepherd of the people, and he took the scepter from Agamemnon and went running off again. And then when he would come to some king or some preeminent man, he would say to him, "Daimonie, why are you acting like you're a coward? Why are you scared like this? Sit your ass down. Sit everybody else's ass down too. You just don't understand the mind of Agamemnon, the son of Atreus. Now he is testing us, and he will come down hard on the sons of the Achaeans. You know, I think that he will be mad at us. I think that he will do something bad." The heart in the God-sprung king, it can be strong. And Zeus gives him the honor, and Zeus, the genius, loves him. That's what he would say. And then Odysseus would run along, and he would come across to some man of the people. And he would hit him with a scepter. And he would say, "Daimonie, sit your ass down. You take orders from better men. You are without any skill in war, without courage. You actually don't count for anything, either in the council or in battle." Sorry, it's kind of harsh. We can't all be kings here among the Achaeans. So just let there be one marshal of the people, one king to whom Zeus has given the scepter and all of the decrees by which he rules. That's what he would say. And so all of the people once again came to order and made their way back to the assembly place and took their places. There was just one man who was still just all without measure ranting. This was Thersites. Now, Thersites had a lot of words in his head. There were a lot of words, and they were all out of order, and they actually went against the order of things because he was always trying to start shit with kings. He was the ugliest of all of the men to come to Troy with the son of Atreus. He was bow-legged. He had a disability in one of his feet. His shoulders were bowed so that his chest kind of contracted, and his head came to a point where there was like a little tuft of wool on top of it. He was especially hated by Achilles and Odysseus because he was always trying to start shit with them. But really, all of the Achaeans held a grudge in their heart against him, even though he always tried to say something that he thought they would find hilarious. And now he turned his ranting insults against Agamemnon, the son of Atreus, marvelous Agamemnon, and said, "Son of Atreus, what are you going to blame us for now? What more can you possibly want? Your tents are already full of bronze, full of women whom the Achaeans gave you first choice of. Now do you want gold? Do you want some one of the horse-breaking Trojans to bring you a ransom for his son? Or maybe I myself have to go capture this gold, or some other one of the Achaeans. Or maybe you want a new girl that you can mix with in lovemaking and keep all to yourself apart. It's not right, you being a leader, the way that you treat the sons of the Achaeans. And you Achaeans, disgraces! I should call you Achaean women, not Achaeans." Just choking on the misogyny. Why don't we leave this man here alone and go home? He can just sit here by himself in Troy and brood over his prizes, and then he'll see whether or not we'll help him. He has already dishonored Achilles, who is far better than him. He has taken Achilles' prize, and robbing him, he has kept her. No. This will now be the son of Atreus, Agamemnon's last outrage. That's what he said. And Odysseus came and stood next to him and was like, "Thersites, you might be a clear orator, but do you really want to be the only one who starts shit with kings? I mean, just stop. You are by far the worst man of all of the Achaeans. As many Achaeans that came to Troy with the son of Atreus, Agamemnon. Just stop your nonsense, stop your insults. Don't ever think to open your mouth again to the kings, and stop talking about the homecoming. We don't even know if the Achaeans are going to have a good homecoming or not." So now I'm going to tell you something. And it's going to be something that happens. If I find you again acting a fool like this beside the ships, well then, my head will no longer be on my shoulders, and I will no longer be called the father of Telemachus if I don't strip you of your cloak and of your tunic and all your other clothes that cover up all of your naughty bits, and I don't send you crying through the ships of the Achaeans, beating you all the way away from this assembly. That's what he said, and he actually beat him with the scepter right in between the shoulders, so that Thersites doubled over and let out a large tear. And there was a big bloody welt that raised up under the gold scepter between his shoulders. And Thersites went, and he was scared, and he sat down again. And he just kind of saw how useless he was and wiped away his tears. But Odysseus, still holding the scepter, waited for the phone to stop ringing. And said hello. Odysseus. Alex. Alex is so good. First, the people. Sorry. So after Thucydides, there's some people in the crowd, right? And one person would say to the other one, man, did you see that? Odysseus has done some really awesome stuff before, like 10,000 awesome things when he was both counseling and giving advice, or when he was marshaling the people, but I think what he just did now, that's the best thing he has ever done among all of the Achaeans. When he drove that guy, that word thrower, that outrageous man out of the assemblies forever, because I do not think that that guy is ever going to have the proud heart in him again to go against kings like this. Right? That's what some guy would say to the other in the crowd. Thanks, Alex. But meanwhile, then Odysseus, back to the yes. Odysseus still had the scepter. And he got up to address the people with good intentions. And the gray-eyed goddess Athena stood next to him. She was disguised like a herald, and she got all the people to sit down in silence. And from the front lines of the Achaeans and then all the way back to the rear guard, hey, they all listened to Odysseus and considered his counsel as he said, son of Atreus, you know, now the Achaeans, they have made you into the worst insult. Because now all the things that we promised to do and that we undertook all the way back when we first got into our ranks in horse-feeding Argos, to sack the city of Troy, to make it home safe again, all of that has gone undone. And now look at us. We're like little children or war widows crying to each other about going home. I know it's a hard thing to talk about going home. I mean, if a man is away from his own dear wife and child for even a month, he starts to get impatient beside his well-benched ship, kept away from them by the wintry winds or the stormy sea. And we have been here for 9 years, 9 turns of the calendar of Zeus. So I do not resent you Achaeans for getting impatient beside your well-benched ships. But isn't it also shameful to have stayed here so long and then to go home with nothing to show for it? I think that we should wait here just a little bit longer and see if what Calchas, the seer, first prophesied is true or not. We were all there. We all know this. We were witnesses, except those that the spirits of death have already led away. Calchas prophesied both yesterday and way back when the ships of the Achaeans first gathered at Aulis carrying pains to the Trojans. We were at an altar. There was an altar beside a spring, and the spring was next to a plane tree. There we were accomplishing perfect hecatombs. That meant we were killing all 100 animals. Yes. And there was a plane tree that underneath it, the shining water flowed. And there we saw a sign. Because all of a sudden, beneath the plane tree, beneath the altar, in fact, there was a snake that appeared. And it was the god's light that revealed it. And the snake, blood reeking, all of a sudden rushed out from beneath the altar and darted towards the plane tree. And the plane tree, well, there, under the leaves of its farthest branches, cowered 8 baby sparrows. And there was a 9th sparrow, the mother of the children, and she was flying all around them. And now the snake ate all 8 of the pitiful little children. And then the snake ate the mother too, twisting around her, grabbing her by the foot as she shrieked, lamenting over her dear children. And then there was another marvelous sign, because the same God that had revealed the snake in the first place, turned that snake into stone. Zeus, he made it into a monument. And we were all astonished. And Calchas, the seer, said to us, Sons of the Achaeans, why have you gone voiceless? Why have you lost your speech? This is a great sign from Zeus, who's a genius. And he has brought these marvelous portents into our perfect hecatombs. For just as this snake came and ate these 8 children, and the 9th, the mother, so we will fight here for 9 years. This is something that is slow, and it is something slow accomplished, but once we accomplish it, it will give glory to us that will not die, because in the 10th year we will sack the well-walled city. That's what he said. Don't you remember? And all of these things are happening. So I say we just need to wait a little bit longer, and we will sack Priam's great city. That's what Odysseus said. And there was a great shout among the people. It was a clamor that echoed between the ships, like when the waves crash upon the great shore and the sea breaks. And now Nestor stood up amongst them, the Gerenian horseman, and said, "Oh, Popoi, now we make an assembly like we're little kids who don't know anything about war. Where have our oaths gone to? Where have our trusted treaties gone? Have we just thrown our counsels and our plans of men into the fire, along with the unmixed libations and the right hands in which we trusted? Now do we only know how to fight with words? Come on. We have been here a long time and we can't find any way forward? No. Son of Atreus, Agamemnon, it's time for you to lead us surely again, both in the councils and through the terrible battles. And if there are 1 or 2 Achaeans that will counsel against you, who cares? They can waste away. It doesn't matter. Before they make their way back to Argos, since we will see whether or not those things are accomplished that Zeus first nodded to us and promised when our ships first arrived at Troy, bearing pain and death and slaughter for the Trojans. For Zeus did nod and promise to us. He flashed lightning on the right-hand sign. It was a sure sign. And so now let nobody speak about homecoming until they have slept with the wife of a Trojan and paid back the Trojans for all of Helen's moans and her urges. And sure, if someone still terribly wants to go home, then let them take hold of their black, well-bent ship and draw it into the salt sea, but let them face death and destruction first. Son of Atreus, lordliest, lord of men Agamemnon, listen to me. Don't throw my words away just because they're from someone else, because they're from me. And pay attention. Now you must divide the Achaeans up, tribe by tribe and clan by clan, so that tribe helps tribe and clan helps clan. And then we will know which one of our leaders and which one of our people is good and which one is bad, who is brave and who is a coward. And then when we fight like this, we will know if it's because of some divine will that we cannot sack this city, or if it's because of the ignorance and the cowardice of our own men. That's what Nestor said. And now Agamemnon answered him, the Lord of men. Oh, old man, you always win the Achaeans in the assembly. You always win the assembly. If I had 10 of you, I swear, by Zeus, by Apollo, by Pallas Athena, if I had 10 counselors like you among all of these Achaeans, I would have already sacked Troy. Would have sacked it and ransacked it. But now, Zeus has only given me pains and groans. Zeus has thrown me into useless conflict, arguments. I fought with Achilles over a girl. With words, I fought him. And I started that shit. I mean, if we could just find one counsel going forward, if the Achaeans could be of one mind, then the Trojans would not last long. They wouldn't even last a day. So come on. Let's eat breakfast and go to war. Sharpen your spears. Get your shields ready. Make sure the horses have breakfast too. We are going to fight all day long in hateful battle. There will be no pause, no break, not until darkness comes and the sun sets and separates each man from their own fighting fury. And every man will sweat on his chest where the shield strap goes, and his spear hand will get tired, and every horse will sweat, pulling the chariots into battle. And if I see anyone holding back from battle or just chilling by our beaked ships, I will make sure that they will not escape death, the dogs and the birds. That's what he said. The Lord Agamemnon. And now all the people were moved again. It was like when waves, again, when they hit the furthest points, the lookout, the promontory, and the southeast wind, and the south wind, they blow all the waves forever, so that now it's like they're coming from every direction, and there's just waves, and they're going here and there. Now that's how all the people went, here and there, back to their ships. And each man went beside his own tent, and he started a little fire. And he had breakfast. And he prayed to the immortal gods to protect him from death and from the war work of Ares. And Agamemnon himself, he sacrificed a 5-year-old fat ox. And he called all of the elders, the good elders of the Achaeans. First of all, Nestor, Lord Idomeneus, 2 Ajaxes, son of Tydeus, Diomedes, and 6th was Odysseus, like a genius, like Zeus. And Menelaus, he didn't even have to be called. He came of his own accord because he knew how hard his brother Agamemnon worked. And so they all stood around the ox, and they picked up the barley. And Agamemnon, made a powerful prayer. Zeus, lordliest, you who dwell in the black ether, do not let darkness come or the sun set until we have grabbed and toppled down Priam's palace all the way to the ground. We have burned his gates in fiery fury, not until I have cleaved the tunic from around Hector's chest with my own bronze, and his many companions lie face down on the earth, eating the dust with their teeth. That's what Agamemnon prayed, and they scattered the barley, but Zeus was not going to do any of that. He just accepted the sacrifices and had other plans. But so they prayed, and they lifted up the head of the animal, and they slit its throat, and they skinned it, and they cut out the thigh bones, and they wrapped them in fat, making a double fold, and they placed the raw bits of flesh over the whole thing, and they roasted it, and they got these stripped sticks to roast them on, and they put the guts on there over the flame of Hephaestus, and when they had roasted the thigh and tasted the guts, then they cut up all the rest into little pieces, and they roasted it lightly, and they took it away again. And when they had done all this work, they made a feast, and then they feasted, and each man had satisfaction from his fair share of the feast. And when they had extinguished their desire for drinking and for eating, then the Gerenian horseman Nestor said to all of them, "Son of Atreus, lordliest, lord of men, Agamemnon, let's not talk about these things anymore. Now it is time to grab the task which the god has put in our hands. Now it is time to send for the heralds to call all of the men to war, and we will all go together, the flowing-haired Achaeans, along the wide army of the Achaeans, and we will make our way into the sharp field of Ares." That's what he said. And Agamemnon did not disobey him, but Agamemnon called the clear-voiced heralds, and he told the heralds to call all the people to war. And the heralds listened, and they went, and they called all the people to war. And so all the people then came and were assembled. And when they were all assembled, the sceptered kings divided themselves on either side of Agamemnon, and they all moved forward along the wide army of the Achaeans. And Pallas Athena wore her aegis. That's this thing that goes like this. And the aegis was permanent. It lasted forever. It never wore out. And it had these gold tassels that floated down, and each one was well woven, and each one was worth a hecatomb, the whole 100 animals. And so Athena went darting from man to man, stirring up the heart in each man's chest for unending war and for battle. And so now it became sweeter for each man to fight in battle rather than to go to their own dear fatherlands in their hollow ships. I wish I had my beer here. Thank you so much, everyone. I want to thank Jen Quinn, who's this week's director. Alex, as always. Barda Penn. And please come back for next week when Donovan Ryder is going to be taking the reins. Thank you, everyone.